Hello everyone, today we're working on a 2005 Dodge Cummins, and what we're going to be doing today is putting a bypass filter system on this engine for the engine oil. The bypass system is a lot finer filtration than the regular full flow filter, so we're going to filter the oil a lot finer, which takes away the fine dirt that wears away at the motor over time and accumulates 80-90% of the abnormal wear of the life of the engine. Okay, so the kit we're putting on today, it's an Amsoil BMK34, and this is the one designed for the Cummins engines, and I'll show you the parts that come with it. They send along an EABP90 bypass filter element. Here is the filter head for that element. They send along 12 feet of hose, and then also this is the return, where the return oil goes back to the valve cover where the oil fill is at. So that's an anodized aluminum, very nice setup for that. And then there's the hardware that comes with it. There's a couple of 90-degree brass fittings in there, a couple of 45-degree brass fitting. Most all the hose ends, you got the hose ends here for it, and most of the bolts you're going to need as well. So that's what comes with the Amsoil kit, okay? And then I fabricate brackets to be able to mount it up where you need to. We're going to be mounting this one kind of right behind the headlight assembly area on this truck on the passenger side. And this is a bracket I've made up for that to get it mounted in there. And I've also got some of the bolts that allow it to be bolted up, and then I've also got this here for taking oil samples, and that'll come right off the top of the original filter. And with this oil sample valve, I've got a cap on there that keeps everything clean, so you don't get dirt and all kinds of crap up in there to mess with your oil samples. So this is these are items here that I manufacture for that. And then also Amsoil makes 3 filters. I'll show you the difference in them. The kit comes with the ABP90, comes with this one. And the next one longer, this one's 6 inches, this one's 7.5 inches long, this is the ABP100. And then this one here is 10.5 inches, this is the ABP110. The only difference in these filters is the length and how much oil they add to the system. So what I did was with this bracket and where I've got it mounted, I can fit this biggest filter in. The difference in price, this filter is about $5 more than this filter right here. And this big filter here is about $5 more than this one. So you're not talking about a big difference in cost, but you get a lot more filtration, you get extra oil capacity with this. It also kind of acts as a heat sink, and it'll get rid of some heat out of that oil as well. So I'm going to be using the longer filter on this particular application. Doesn't mean you can't use the short one or the medium one, whichever one you want to use. There's plenty of room and you know, up there to get whichever filter you want in there. So the other thing that I want to mention, I'm a dealer for gold plug magnetic drain plugs. And these gold plugs use a neodymium magnet. And I'll give you an example here. This is the rear differential plug off of this truck right here. And from the factory, they put a gray magnet on it. It's a very weak magnet. It'll catch quite a bit of that fine stuff, but once it gets fuzzed over like you see it is right there, then it can't keep pulling that metal out of the oil to protect your bearings. This is the only filter you have in those gearboxes. The stronger that magnet is, the more metal it's going to pull out of the oil to protect your bearings. So I'll show you here what we got on that magnet. Right there we're down to basically the magnet. I'm going to show you the strength of this magnet. Got a little bolt here, a little 1-inch bolt, probably about 8-9 inches long. And if I put it on there, it can barely hold itself on. Okay. The direct replacement for that is this plug right here, this gold plug. A little bit of a difference in strength. Which one's going to pull more metal out of your differential oil to protect the bearings? It's definitely going to help with bearing life. And then also I have one, this is the one to replace the engine oil drain plug. And again, tremendous amount of strength with that magnet. I mean, that bolt's probably 1.5 pounds, 2 pounds. Lets you monitor what's going on inside that engine. And I'm a dealer for those. There's actually 3 plugs available for this truck. The the front differential, the rear differential, and the engine. So I've got those plugs on hand. If you're interested in those, you can contact me, or if you want my bracket kit, contact me. I'll be happy to get those for you. So we're going to get started with this, and we'll be back with you. Here's the spot where we're going to put that bypass system on this Dodge Cummins. This is a 2005. And I've got the clamp loose here for this aftermarket air filter. And I'm going to pop this out of the way. So we've got this out of the way. And if you've got the original filter box, there's a couple of rubber grommets down here where the filter box sits, and then up here in front there's a bolt that usually holds that on. And take that box out of the way, and that'll open up the area where we're going to mount at. And right down in here, if we can see halfway decent, there's a kind of a tab sticking out there with 2 holes in it right here, and that's what we're going to use to mount that bypass system. And there's also a piece of plastic right here, and what I may do on that is down low here is just slice it off so it's not interfering with where my bottom of my filter's at. Or you can leave it there and flex it. It's quite flexible. Right here's your wheel well for that front wheel, but you have to decide if you want to leave it there. I think I'm going to slice it off and take it out of the way, because it really isn't performing a whole lot of function down there. And I look on the driver's side and it doesn't have that piece of plastic. So, but just want to show you whereabouts we're mounting, where we're thinking about going there. I'll turn the camera around here, maybe it gives you a little better shot. And we can nestle that filter right in there, kind of between that front cross member mount and that fender well. Okay, right down here is a metal bracket, and that's what we're going to use to attach that bracket that I made. And then the filter head will be about right up in here, and that filter will kind of come down on a slight angle down towards the ground. And there's a plastic skirt in there, and I showed that on the earlier clip. And what I did is I took this die grinder with a slicer wheel, and I came in right here, right at about the top of that, where that bracket is at, and I just took it straight across right over here to that inner fender well. I didn't cut into that fender well, but I cut it off just nice and straight across right there. That gives me the room to get that filter head in there without any restrictions. Okay, so I wanted to show you that. Just basically take that die grinder, come in and slice it off. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is take the 5/16 bolt, and we're going to put it on the inside here, right there. And then I have to do a little bit of wiggling to get that bolt in. Because it's right there next to that cab mount, that body mount. But it will go. Just wiggle it a little bit. We'll take a wrench and turn it a little bit. It'll go. Then we'll put the 3/8 bolt with a heavy washer on. And I've got another heavy washer and a flange nut that'll go on the bottom side. And we'll get it somewhat centered up on that hole. And there's a little bit of movement there if you need for adjustment before you tighten it up. Okay, I'm going to snug it up so it's fairly close to where it needs to be, but I can still kind of move it around a little bit, and that'll kind of help give me a final adjustment on it. So before I tighten it, I've got my clearances from the fender well here, and also from this the edge of this cab mount, or this cross member mount here. So we got that snug, and now the next thing we're going to do is put on the filter head right here. Okay, this here is a bracket that I don't have finished yet, but I wanted to show you under there what I did. I made the holes a little bit oversized in this bracket, so that when you go in, you've got some wiggle room back and forth to be able to adjust this filter head before you tighten it. And that'll give you the clearances you need away from that mount, and also from, on this side, it'll be the plastic inner fender well. So you've got a couple of adjustments. You got a little bit of adjustment right here. You can kind of swing that bracket back and forth a little bit before you tighten it. and then also you can rock it, and you got some filter movement here that allow you to kind of make an adjustment to get your final adjustment where you want that filter. Okay, there's two ports on here. You got an in port, which is on the outside, that feeds the oil from the top of the original full flow filter, and I'll show you that here in a minute, on into this, and it goes through the outside of the filter, through the pleating, and up through the center. And the restricted orifice is right here in the center. They got a brass orifice in there, small orifice. So this out oil here is going to go to your valve cover. This is your filtered oil. Okay, so here we are. We're going to put this in. Slide it right down in there, and my hands might be in the way here a little bit. It's a tight spot. What I'm going to do is put in that first top bolt there, and get me a nut and a washer. Okay, now it's hanging. I can get the other two bolts in, and then I can start positioning that where I want it. So I'm going to go ahead and put the other bolts in and get it, and I'll show you it when I get it all tightened up and have it placed where I want it. Okay, I've got that filter head on and tightened, and I put this EABP 110 on there. That's that long filter, and you can see right here where my finger is, we got probably about 1/8 of an inch or just a little more of clearance between that metal bracket there and the filter. And then on this side over here, see if I can get a shot of that. We've got about 1/8 of an inch. See if I can get about 1/8 inch between that inner fender well and that filter there. So kind of gives you can fold it back and see there we got about 1/8 inch. And like I say, you can adjust that where you need. If you don't want to use the long filter, you can use a short one. It's just going to be up there higher, and you can use a medium length one, whichever one you want. But that kind of gives you some idea of placement on that filter. And we're, right here is the bottom of the frame, so we're up there probably about 1.5 inches above the bottom part of the frame. And here's some of the steering components. So we're up there tucked away in a pretty safe place. So that looks really, really nice right there. And you got the bumper up here to support, bumper support on the back side here. So it's in a pretty safe place right there. Okay, these are all the fittings that come with that bypass, that BMK34. And there's 3 brass ones. There's 2 90s and 1 45-degree 1/8 inch pipe thread elbow. So on this particular application, I want 2 45s coming off of here. So I'm going to have to include another 45-degree elbow with the kit that I provide. And when we put these elbows in, that'll shoot it off on a nice angle for us right there underneath the original air filter. And then from there we'll go with these straight fittings. And then we'll go to our hose for each one, and I'll show you how to put the hose ends together. And then up on the engine valve cover, or on the engine fill port, we'll put a 90-degree elbow on there. Okay, so, and there's also going to be one coming out right at the top of the oil filter. I'll show you that here in a minute. And that'll be the source of oil right at the top of the original full flow oil filter. Okay, and then the other thing is, each of these are all pipe threads down here, and they seal on the taper of the pipe threads. So you want to use some type of pipe dope on them. And the stuff I have has some Teflon in it. It's a good idea on these. These are stainless steel fittings, these straight ones, and put a coat on. And that'll help them to seal, allow you to get them tighter. You don't need it on the top side because it seals on this taper right here. And the taper, as you tighten it down, it's an interference fit on here, and it seals it up metal to metal. So you don't need to put any pipe dope or anything on these other threads because it seals on that taper. So all these threads, all these pipe threads here on the brass and on the base of these, put some type of pipe dope on them. Okay, on this fill cap here, it's a 9/16 wrench on the flats, and screw that in with some pipe dope on it. And there we go. And that's got a swivel built into it, so as you take that cap on and off, it swivels. Kind of a nice setup there.
Ready.
Okay, this 1/8 inch pipe plug right here is where we're going to source our oil from to feed the bypass system. So when you go to take that out, just make sure that clean around there, spray it off some ether if you need to. It's a 7/16 wrench size. So we will take that out. And this is our little tree we're going to put in. The sample valve is going to go up here. This is going to be our port to feed over to the filter. And as you go in, you may have to push over on that steel tube just a little bit, that coolant passage. And I believe that's a 9/16 or a 5/8 wrench. 9/16 will do it. Okay, about right there is where I want that. So next thing we'll do is put the adapter in here for the hose, and then the sample valve will go right here. Okay, here's the hose ends, and the outer sleeve that unscrews from the insert. And you want the end of the hose nice and true. And I have a cutter here that I use, the Snap-on Blue Point YA1000A. And it does a real nice job of slicing the hose at a perfect 90 degrees. Just like that. Leaves the hose really nice. And then we got this here is reverse threads on this. So you can start it there by hand. And what I'll do is clamp it in the vise and finish it off. And I take it up till it's tight, and I back it off about a half a turn or so. And then I take some of the oil, the engine oil, and I'll put a little bit of it in there just to lube it up as we put that insert in. You can clamp that in the vise. You take it until it bottoms out on that outer shell. And that's it. Wipe off any excess oil that I put in there so you don't think you have a leak. And there we have our hose end. Okay, I've got the sample valve on there and cap. And if you want a longer tube on there, you can put it on. If you don't feel comfortable leaving that on, you can always unscrew this here and put your plug back in the top of it if you want to. Okay, so we put the hose, I put a hose end on each end of the hose, one right here and one up here in the valve cover. And then I've got my fittings down here screwed on and tight where I want them as far as an angle. And So I'm going to take the hose here. This is the dirty oil coming from the engine, coming over to the bypass. And I'm going to get a real close proximity here on where I want that hose at. And I'm going basically to the end of this sleeve right here, where the end of my fingernail is. Okay. So the engine may rock around a little bit. I'm going to give it just a little bit of free play. But you want to make sure you got enough room underneath your original. If you got the original air filter, it's going to sit right in here. Okay, if you got the cold air intake, it's going to be up higher and you don't have that issue. So I'm going to cut this probably about right here. Just mark it good with my Sharpie. And I'll do the same with the other end. You want to make sure when you route this hose, keep it away from the turbo or the exhaust manifold here. And what I'll do is probably zip tie it to some of these things here to keep it from vibrating on anything on the engine as much as possible. So on this one here will come down, and that goes to the center one. Make sure I got enough hose. So I'm thinking probably about right there. And you send along 12 feet of this hose, so with this application, we'll have plenty of hose left over. If you make it too short, you can always take another new chunk and do that, make a cut, make a new one. So we're going to go ahead and cut these, get the ends put on, and I'll show you routing those, and I'll be back with you. Okay, these hose ends here are really hard to get a wrench down in there and tighten. So a 9/16 crowfoot and a long extension with a ratchet works really well to get in there and be able to tighten those up. And then what I do is I put a backup wrench right there on that insert. It's a 9/16 as well. And then I can get in there and I can crank them tight. And that's true for both of them. You can get in there good with that crow's foot wrench. So that's just to help you out, to get them nice and snug. Okay, I'm going to put a zip tie right here. I don't want that wire to vibrate on the hose and start wearing through the hose or the wire itself. So I'm going to zip tie that. There we go. And I've got one zip tie right up here. And that's for the top hose going up to the valve cover. And I put a big zip tie on right here. I can include that in my kit so that we can keep that nice and snug right there. And you can see where our hoses are run down here. And then over here I've got the valve for taking oil samples. And I'm thinking there will be enough room to be able to get in here and be able to get your bottle under there and open up that valve and take your sample. So whenever you do take a sample here, make sure that you flush out this this tube here and the valve before you take your sample you're going to send in, because there may be some stuff up here that doesn't get circulated, and you don't want that old stuff in this this elbow and this tube getting into your sample. So make sure you flush it before you take your real sample that you're going to send in. So that's pretty much it. I'm going to take a view down below of what everything looks like. I think, well, actually we did that before, so everything looks good there. I believe we're pretty much done with this install. I run the Amsoil synthetics, and with this I run the older formulation 1540, the AME, and we should be able to run, the filter's good for 25,000 miles, and we're going to put on the Amsoil full flow filter, the EAO80, so we should be good for at least 25,000 miles. See what the oil analysis says. So that's pretty much it for this video. Thanks for watching. Thank you for watching my video. Be sure to check out my other videos and subscribe to my channel at youtube.com/c/Donsoil. I'd like to introduce you to Amsoil synthetic lubricants. We have the most complete line of synthetic lubricants on the market that offer you greatly reduced wear, extended drain intervals, longer equipment life. You can check that out at my website, donsoil.com. I also have a website for looking up fluid capacities. It's fluidcapacity.com. You can go there and print off the capacity of your engine oil, cooling system, transmission, transfer case, differentials. Be sure to like us on Facebook, at facebook.com/Don Synthetic Lubes. Thank you and have a great day.